Welcome back to the Neighbors Podcast. Today is a fun one. I got to sit down with former NFL player Josh Wells. He just retired 2 weeks ago after spending 10 seasons in the NFL. He is so full of life, such an incredible dad and husband, and just talked about how he totally found his identity in God through playing football for the NFL. It's an incredible story, and all the lessons he learned and what he's taking into retirement and focusing on being present with his kids, being present with his community, and just trying to discern where's the Lord leading him next. It is a fun one. So here's my conversation with Josh Wells. All right, Josh Wells, welcome to the Neighbors Podcast. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you today about all the things, football, injuries. You're a close friend to injuries.
Yeah.
But I want to start with, we got to give the people what they want. Listen, you played for the Bucs for many years, and you played alongside one of the most famous, well-known, and talented athletes of our time, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And you have a unique perspective because the world sees a side of him, but you saw a very different side of him, more friendly, more familiar. What was your experience like playing with him?
It was awesome. He's the man. I think people that don't like him usually don't like him because he wins all the time.
Facts.
But like the first day he comes in, a couple guys in the locker room, and he walks in and he literally walks around to everybody and just says, "Hi, I'm Tom," and shakes their hand.
You're like,
and I'm like, I know who you are. I know who you are. But that was the first introduction.
Just the posture.
For him to come in and be that humble about it. But he's the greatest leader I've ever been around.
Wow.
It's been really challenging to me through football and now like in my life, but a lot more confident to reach it because he was with me. So I was almost like, cool. Like the bar went way up here. Like it was like Super Bowl or nothing. But I'm also like, I can win the Super Bowl because Tom's on my team.
Wow,
so
great
it's like,
sign of leadership. Yeah.
So it's just like what happens when I walk in the room? Do I make people more confident? Do I raise the bar? Do I lower the bar? So it's just kind of everywhere in my family. He's just kind of instilled that. It was just a good example.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but he's a great dad. He's a great person. Conversations that we would have. He throws the ball down the field, and I'm kind of just like jogging to the ball, and he just looks at me. He's like, pick it up. And I was like, oh gosh, like, let me hurry up, It's just like a standard that he said.
Yeah.
But nothing but great things to say about him behind the scenes and obviously on the field.
It was funny. I'm not like a huge sports follower. This year was like my year of sports. I was pretty committed to being a Jags fan. And so, I don't know a ton about sports, but coming into this, I was talking with a friend and I'm like, what would you want to ask Josh Wells? And we talked about, your career. You've had some high highs and some low lows. We're going to talk about all of those things. And he's like, you know what? One time I was standing next to him at our kids' soccer game or something, flag football, and I just asked him what it was like to play with Tom Brady, and it was the most fascinating answer.
Yeah. It's just how normal, it's crazy how normal he is.
Well, sure. They're all human, and okay, so let's talk about you.
Perfect.
So football is not even the most interesting thing about you. That's what I like to say about my NFL friends.
Yeah.
You are a husband and a dad and a disciple, and football was your career. So how did you, was professional football always on your radar growing up? Or how did you end up in the NFL?
I think it was always a dream. My mom showed me a letter. I was in the third grade and I was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was playing the NFL. But I just was always the next thing. I just tried to, in high school I was a quarterback, which is kind of funny because I ended up playing offensive line. I walk on to play college football. I didn't have any scholarships. And then I ended up being undrafted to Jacksonville. So it was just kind of...
Oh, wow, yeah.
I just kept... My parents are incredible. They just were... We didn't grow up going to church. We didn't grow up in the church, nothing like that. But it was good morals and hardworking, and you got to work for everything you have. And they're the hardest working people I know. So it's it's kind of funny how all those things kind of brought me to the NFL through just doing those things. And then how God used the NFL to eventually bring me to himself. We'll talk probably, I'm sure, later, but just how getting there. It's almost like just by his grace that allowed me to get there and realize like, this isn't it. But I think, it's obviously hard work and things like that, but I also didn't work hard to be 6'6" and have, my genetics.
Sure.
So it's like, it's a little bit of both.
Worked real hard those early days.
Sure. Like,
ate a lot of Kellogg's.
Exactly. So,
okay. So what is harder, being a dad or being an NFL player?
It's being a dad. I mean, I think
all the dads are like, phew,
no,
I knew I could make it in the NFL.
No, yeah, like the NFL is hard and things like that, but I have a playbook.
Yeah.
I have film.
No playbook.
I have coaches to help me kind of figure out like, this is what you did wrong. But yeah, I mean, I find myself with my kids, like I've had a perfect day of football practice. I've never had a perfect day parenting.
Amen.
And I'm just like, I get to the end of my day and I've never found myself more just like praying and just helpless sometimes of like, what do I need to do? And like repenting to the Lord and then like having to repair with my kids all the time. That's super hard.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, will you forgive me to my 4-year-old? He's like, sure, Dad.
Yeah.
It's just,
for sure.
But it's like, I think those things are hard. It shows football doesn't really expose like the real bad sides of me. And I think parenting does.
Interesting. We were just talking a little bit earlier about how it's funny because when we were growing up, we felt like our parents were so confident. Like as a kid, you're like, my parents seem to know everything to do. And now we have, our oldest is 2.5. And so we've just really started like actual discipline, but like we'll do it. And then my husband and I, we kind of like look at each other and we're just like, ugh, like, did we do it right? Like we just have no idea. And we're just like, hope we did it right. At the end of the day, let's just pray that everything that was helpful sticks and everything unhelpful, God cuts it away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to realize I'm going to mess them up to some extent.
Right.
I think it's just like, man, like
tough thought to accept.
They're going to go to counseling one day because of something I did,
For sure.
So yeah, it's great, but it's definitely being a father.
Okay. Well, good to know. Okay. So you have had 10 seasons in the NFL and I want to know, what was the best part of your 10 seasons?
I mean, there's highs like the Super Bowl and there's things like that. But honestly, the journey, I think I've had a little like 2 weeks to reflect back. But the friends I have for the rest of my life, like you had Tyler on here earlier podcast. And like I have friends now in Arizona and Kansas City. And it's like the people I get to do the rest of my life with because of that. And then looking back at the highs and the lows of it all and then realizing how it changed you and brought you through. But yeah, the journey is just incredible. Like someone could have my Super Bowl trophy and it wouldn't mean anything to them. It only means something to me because I knew what it took to get there.
Wow, yeah.
So yeah, I think the best part is for just the memories and the friends.
Great. Okay, so what would you say is the hardest part?
Recently, last 2 years was seeing my family struggle and sacrifice. I played in Jacksonville early in my career. We lived here, then Tampa for 4, then Baltimore last year. And as my kids got older, my wife is a lot tougher than me. Like to be completely honest, like with injuries to me over the past couple of years, I just always saw it as just keep working and just keep moving forward. And for her, she's the one like, Dad can't play with the kids, so like I play with the kids, or I can't get out of the bed, so she has to help me out of bed. And like to me, I just was like chasing to get back to playing football, and she was like living in it, So I think the hardest part is the moving, the back and forth, not normal Christmases for our kids. And so I'm super thankful now to have that.
For sure. That's definitely a unique challenge to that specific career is the schedule of it and the demand on your body. I mean, such a physically demanding sport, obviously, but I'm sure people talk to you about this all the time, but they just came out with that quarterback docuseries on Netflix. And I found it so interesting. Like they're showing the day after a game, like the bruises and this like the muscle therapy that they have to go through every week to be able to turn it around again for Sunday. And then you just don't think about it through the lens of how that impacts family, like playing with kids and longevity of life and like all the things. And which would be, I mean, that's such a unique challenge not a lot of people have experienced.
Exactly. I think it's just, no one sees that side of it. Someone sees a guy get hurt on Sunday and they're not thinking that like his wife and kids are in the stands or at home 5 states away watching it happen on TV. So yeah, I think you come home and you try to do your best to kind of, to get healthy and come back, but also be a present father and a husband. And
for sure.
Yeah, it's just a balance.
For sure. So physically taxing is definitely a part of it. I'm sure also being a professional athlete has its mental adversities too. What would you say is like the hardest mental hurdle you had to overcome, or what created the biggest mental fortitude in your experience there?
I think realizing that it's all, they see you as what can you do for me? And like, it's not going to be for long, but like, what have you done for me lately? And so like every day, it's just, you could have a good game on Sunday and play poorly the next Sunday and truly be treated different by certain people because of how you performed.
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh.
So I think that's
the opposite of the gospel.
Exactly. Complete opposite, you know? And it's like, it's such a cool place to be, but it's like, you play well on Sunday, and the next week feels so easy. Like, people look at you different, and people talk to you, and then you play poorly a couple times.
You don't exist.
And yeah, it's just like, well, looking to replace you and bring people in. So I think getting by the performance, you never get by. Never get by it either. I think you handle it better, but it's still always lingering of like, what can I do for them? How can I perform better? So you can keep playing and keep going and things like that.
Yeah.
So for sure, that was it.
So how you talked a little bit about when you got to the NFL and you're like, I've made it, only to realize that God brought you there to then bring you to himself. Tell us that story and how that happened.
Yeah, I would say, so like I said, I didn't grow up in the church, anything like that. But good values, good morals and things like that. I go to college and then I come here to Jacksonville undrafted to OTAs, and Tyler's my roommate. And
just randomly?
They paired us together. That's
wow.
who, and we lived together for 5 months in a hotel.
Wow.
Because it was like off-season workouts and then through training camp. And this is when we had the weekends off. And he's like, I have a truck. On Sundays, I go to church. And then I go to we can go get breakfast. And I was like, I never had anything against it. It was not like anybody told me, like, don't go to church. So I was like, okay, I'll go with him, you know? So we kind of bounced around from church to church. And I would say that started it. That was like the initial part of it. But I was undrafted. No one expected me to make the team. Newspaper article, like, long shots to make the team and things like that.
Oh, that's great for the morale.
And then, for sure. Like you said, but then I ended up making the team, and I was like, I've got a house and a new car. I was engaged to Morgan, and I made the team and making more money than I ever thought I would make.
You're 22 at this point?
22, just fresh out of college. And we ended up stopping at 11:22 after we had tried some other churches. And then Joby preached a sermon like, have you ever laid there and just thought like, I had everything, but realized you have nothing? And like, a lot, but like, I like cried in bed for like 2 weeks. And I'm like, a rookie in the NFL.
2 weeks.
Like, I just like, there was like at night, it would always like, because Morgan didn't live with me yet. I was by myself. So I would come home and just be
alone with yourself.
I just would be like, and truly with myself, I was like, I have no one I truly feel like I don't have anything. And I would say that as far as changing the trajectory, I think it was the initial, like, the heaven instead of hell. Like, it just started to lean that way. But it changed everything, just to realize, like, it was almost given to me just to make me realize, wow,
incredible.
You don't have it all.
So, which, I mean, is a blessing too that happened so early in your career, because I'm sure it changed even just how you approached every season and every trial that you would go through then, and even the mountaintops too, knowing like, this isn't it. The Super Bowl isn't it.
Yeah.
How did that affect Morgan, like in those days when you were realizing, okay, God needs to be a center of my life?
Yeah, she grew up like real strong Catholic, like confirmation and all the things. But yeah, neither of us really had a true relationship with the Lord. So that was probably the first step for me. But yeah, I mean, she just was like, well, just keep, like, I just kept going to church and then would talk to her about it. And like, and it's kind of funny how there's some stories that kind of all brought it back. I get cut from Jacksonville. I've been praying for her to get baptized for a long time, just working into her salvation, like praying for her to get baptized, praying for her to get baptized. And she was struggling because the whole Catholic and then relationship thing. And then I get released from Jacksonville, go to Tampa, and then we played on Thursday night, so I could come back on the weekend when you play on Thursday night. And she got baptized at Saturated the weekend. Like, so I had just gotten cut super low. I come back for the weekend, and like, she gets baptized, and I'm just like, it's crazy
like
to look
holding
back
these
the
two
journey.
things in your hands.
That just kind of, it's crazy that moment, I think, has helped lead our family to where we are now.
Yeah, it's wild because, I mean, what I know about you and your family and Morgan now, I just never, I would have thought both of you grew up in the church, like have been followers of Jesus. I mean, you're all in. I mean, you are worshiping with your hands in the air. I mean, your family is centered on Jesus. Like, it's just incredible to hear your story. That's really only within the past 10 years, which is just so incredible.
Yeah.
So you talked about, you had that low of getting cut and then the high, she's getting baptized. How do you ride the wave of lows and highs?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I always like the Super Bowl was a high, making the team was a high. And then I surrendered my life, my second preseason game of my second year. So It took me like through a full season. I'm wrestling and then I hear like a testimony in chapel the night before a preseason game and I surrender my life. And then the next day I like get hurt in the game and I go on injured reserve for the whole year.
Oh, wow.
And I just was like, this, like, really?
You're like, I just surrendered my
really,
life.
I know. Yeah. So it just gave me some, like, looking back though, I guess all I had to say, looking back is usually what helps me get through the current time. Because like now I like to say, like, I feel like I go down the mountain like face planting. And now like I go down face planting, but it's just a little more comfortable because I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. Because, like I think there's just so much, we're called to be uncomfortable, I think. I think go through hard times. And now I think when I look in the rearview mirror at times I've been uncomfortable, I can find comfort in the Lord in those times. And I think that helps me ride the wave. And then when I'm like, people that help me stay rooted are people that are rooted a lot. They have some deep roots. Yeah. I think people around you that are kind of rooted way in the gospel, live it out, and just give me an opportunity to talk to them and they can hold my roots down,
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So how have you approached the NFL and being a professional athlete as your mission field?
Like you said, I think it's kind of funny because it's been my only mission field. Yeah. It's like I guess it's been 9 years now. And at first I feel like the Lord was like working in me before I could like work through anyone else, So I would say the first 2 or 3, probably 2 years, 3 years, I'm just like having my wrestling with myself, wrestling with my walk. And then it just got to where I got to Tampa and it kind of took off as far as instead of praying to perform and praying to have the best practice, I would pray to like have a conversation with a guy or pray for another guy, which became really interesting. And then I would always try to have the right answer at first. And I would have people like, I would have my phone like texting like, hey, what should I say to this? And like, some very wise people were like, just tell what happened to you. And then you can look the answer up and come back, But yeah, I think those conversations and then just getting to the point, locker rooms are very interesting. Every conversation you could imagine. Yeah. And I just would try to I would just ask them like, hey, where are you going when you die? Like just, whatever. Just, you have to have an answer. Then someone's got to have an answer. Yeah. And provide for my family, but to have lifelong friendships with guys that I don't see eye to eye with and have the hard conversations.
Was it ever hard to have boldness to share your faith in a space that is not like a Christian space?
Yeah, it was super hard. I think it's crazy how much watching an older guy or a guy that did it in front of you made it more comfortable. Like watching an older guy go and be like, and ask the hard questions and I'm sitting around and then I would just try it out on a guy I was super close with and then try it on someone else. But I still get super uncomfortable. Yeah. But I think, like I said, I think there's something about being uncomfortable. Yeah. Like all the cold tub now, everybody's like all fascinated. I think the thing is like, I'm uncomfortable. The conversations, the talking on podcasts, whatever it is, just make yourself uncomfortable. And it's crazy.
Do you cold plunge?
Oh yeah, all the time.
This is really becoming a popular topic now on the podcast too. I love it. I'm feeling like I need to get a cold plunge pool. Do you do it for the mental fortitude, like this is hard and I'm going to get through it? Is that what you do it for?
There's benefits obviously to my body as well, like anti-inflammatory and things like that. But yeah, I think it's because it's like, this is going to be hard. I can do it. I get in, I get out, and I'm like, I never regret doing it. There's not a time I get out and I'm like, I shouldn't have done that.
Just like you probably never regret being uncomfortable and asking a hard question to someone and like having the boldness to do it.
You've never woke up, read your Bible and been like, I regret that. Right. Like, it's just like, let's stick to things, doing things we've never regretted, So.
And hearing that really the moment of surrender. Like you're wrestling, and it took one guy's testimony in chapel that was what like clicked it for you.
Yeah.
And then of course the enemy is like, well, now you need all the answers. When if you were just to think back to, okay, what made my light bulb go off? It was hearing someone else's testimony.
Yeah.
I don't have to have all the answers. I just have to share what, like you said, what happened to me. I was lost, I was found, and now here I am living free kind of thing,
doubt.
which is so powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so more in the mountains and valleys. We talked early on in your career, and then you ended up winning a Super Bowl, which was, I mean, so incredible. And, you know, not the Jags, but a team in Florida.
Yeah.
So we're still for it. And then you end up having some pretty severe injuries right after almost the Super Bowl, right? So like, how was that experience of a high and a low different as now 10 years in, you kind of got some tenure under your belt than it was in those early days?
Yeah, I think the Super Bowl is so funny because like that's the pinnacle of playing in the playing National Football League. Like you want to win a Super Bowl and things like that, and it was incredible. But when we won the Super Bowl, we got to play at home in Tampa. We got to play in our home stadium. So right after the game, we go home and then we go out with some friends and hang out way too late. And then we had Raylan and Ryan at the time, my two oldest now. And we come home and we got home super late. And the kids woke up at like 6 a.m. and they were literally woke us up and were like, can we go to the park? And can we go swing?
Like, and normal life has resumed.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like and then we have the parade a couple days later. And like that was super cool. And then at the end of the parade, the general manager's like giving like oh, this is so awesome. Like, thank you. Like, now let's go win another one. And I just was like, man,
it's
like
exhausting.
It's free agency. It's like, it truly is. Like it was incredible.
Right back.
I wouldn't change it, but like it might've been 24 hours before it was like next season, free agency.
Yeah,
let's
we're
get
over
back. And I'm pushing my kids to the park at like 7 a.m. We just won the game 12 hours. I mean, 10 hours before that, you know? So
nothing reminds you how pretty much insignificant you are than your kids, because they just remind you like, nope, you're still my parent.
Exactly.
And I have needs, and I don't see you as this famous Super Bowl winning professional athlete. Like, you're just my dad and you need to take me to the park.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like you said, like, and then that happens. And then a real low is like getting hurt. That was super high. And that kind of brought me back to earth real quick. Yeah. But then I get hurt with my knee and things like that. It was toward the end of the season. It was on Christmas night. I'm in Arizona. Morgan and the kids are in Virginia. Like we're across the country apart. I wasn't around the kids for a couple weeks, and it's like, it's just a super low moment. And like I said, I'm just like face planted right into that one, just wrote it all the way down. And like, yeah, I'd been able to reflect back and look, but it sucked. You know, it wasn't easy. And like I said, Morgan pulled the slack a lot of the way, and having a wife like that, and then my kids, obviously, to kind of help me out of it. And yeah, I think you just, like you said, ride the waves earlier with people around you that love you, that are rooted and can kind of help you through.
Have you ever struggled with your getting lost in your identity being a professional athlete? Because it just takes so much to do it. Yeah. Did you ever find yourself slipping into, okay, I'm putting too much of my identity in this?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I played my first 5 years in Jacksonville, and my identity was even post-surrender, post all of that, you know? Like, growing in my relationship with the Lord, like, I would say my identity's not in football, like, what, you know? And then I get cut after my 5th year. Morgan's pregnant with Ryan. Like 35 weeks pregnant with Ryan when I get cut. And I'm just like crushed, like to the point of like it's not just like I'm upset I got cut. I'm just like, what am I going to do? Like, who am I? I just didn't know who I was. And this is probably a couple years into my walk with the Lord. And then I would say that from that point on was a big switch. And like, your identity can't be in football. Tony Dungy gave a chapel for us once. And like, he put up like the little like wooden block that had like 4 words on it, and then this one had like 4 words, and then this one was Christian, and this one said like husband, dad, football player, and then like something else. And like the Christian one just like stayed, and then he just kept flipping this one and flipping this one and flipping this one, because I go Like if that was my identity is just in football, what happens when I go be a dad?
Sure.
And what happens when I'm going to be a husband? So yeah, just little things like that kind of help me out of it. And then even now post football now, and we're 2 weeks retired. So I don't really, know the
big in retirement now.
Know the extent of it yet. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's still what I've done since I was 5 years old. So although I don't believe my identity's in it, it's still all I've known since I was 5 as far as a game, and then it turned into a job. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to wrestle through some things. I'm still going to have to fight it because I think there's something that always is going to try to take her identity. Even
for sure.
For Morgan, she's a stay-at-home mom.
That will try to take your identity in a hot minute.
Exactly. Like football, like you said, football was easier than being a dad because football almost felt like a break from being a parent sometimes. And for stay-at-home moms and for her, it's like, it's easy to put your identity in good things too.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, I think that's so relatable, especially, I mean, you said like, if you put your identity in football, then who am I when I come home and be a dad? That's true for, anybody who is putting their identity, whether it's your job or something outside of what God has designed us for, which is just identity as a son or a daughter, then when you're when you come home, then you're a stranger. Like visual of the Christian, like that is who we are. What we do might change throughout the day, throughout seasons, throughout our life, but we're always starting with we're Christian, which is just so powerful. Okay, so now you're retired, which congratulations.
Yeah.
You're the youngest person retired that I know.
For sure. Yeah.
And my mom just went into retirement, and she's gonna love hearing all you have to share about retirement.
I'm sure I could share
you
some
and all
wisdom.
the 65-year-olds.
Yeah, pickleball, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you look towards retirement, what are the things that you're excited about?
I'm just to be fully present.
Yeah.
Because as much as I try to be a present father and a present husband and play football, I look back at vacations, there's times where I'm trying to find the gym on vacation so I can get my lift in. And now I feel like I can just be a dad and a husband and just give stability and be steady for the kids.
So good.
I'm so excited to build new rhythms with them, rhythms they've never had, and they're 6'4", and 18 months old. So I think just building rhythms and just being present with them for a little bit before I, find out where I'm headed.
So your oldest is a girl.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 sons. Do you think that your kids will play football?
My son is already ate up with it, and he's 4.5. And I've always whatever he wants to do, let's do it full speed. But it's kind of funny how I'm let's play baseball, dude. Let's let's do something else, But I think my only thing is they can play football. I think there's going to be a delicate balance of don't compare to me and not putting trying not to put pressure on them to be me. It's because that's not the goal. That's not my goal for them. And I've been here now, and there's highs and lows, just like anything.
And it's so easy for us to look at people and just see you're an NFL player. And then when you hear you walked on in college, you were undrafted, there's things about your journey that it's well, you have to start somewhere. And it's hard to compare because, a 4-year-old to an NFL play, it's we wouldn't even compare these things. But it is so important, even if it's not that extreme in your own life, it's our kids see us in the current place that we are. So we have to remember that they weren't there when we were struggling in college or when we didn't know what job we were going to take, or I bounced around 3 or 4 industries before landing in ministry, but now I'm sold out serving in ministry. And we talk about all the time, we don't want our kids to think that they have to have it all figured out because it looks like we have it figured out, even though who knows if we even have it figured out. But just being mindful of, they need to see the whole picture and not feel the pressure to just land wherever we are, because obviously it takes years to get there.
Yeah, I just try to tell them you're brave. Work through hard things. Yeah. There's gonna be adversity. I love watching you play.
Yeah.
My daughter does gymnastics and dance, and she'll do something and like it's not perfect or whatever. Like she's doing her best, and like she'll wink at me and like thumbs up,
Oh.
and I'm just like, just go, like, you know, those
Yeah.
things, and like whatever. I think sports teach a lot of great things.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely no push to do it. But if they want to, I'm more than
Will
happy
you
to.
coach?
I'm coaching his little junior t-ball team right now.
Oh my gosh, stop.
And it's honestly because like I've seen some coaches and they're trying to live through their kid and they're trying to like,
Like, you're
they're
doing
4
too
and
much.
5. Yeah, you're doing way too
They're
much.
4 years old.
So it's almost just out of like, I don't even have to
Protection
coach
from
my
those
kid.
people.
Yeah, I'm just going to be there and be like, we're going to work hard
Yeah.
and give our best and have fun
Yeah.
and just play the sport. You know, not.
So do you like coaching? Like, do you think that'll be something you would like get into on a serious level or?
No, definitely not. Yeah, I've seen some of the lifestyles, the hours. Yeah, definitely stick to Little League.
Yep.
So
Okay, so what will be hard about retirement?
I think football has always made me uncomfortable. Training camp, I find myself praying more and sold out for the Lord more in training camp
Oh, wow.
because it can feel lonely at times. And it's super hard. It's the hardest thing I do usually all year is training camp. So I think finding that thing that makes me uncomfortable, finding that thing that pushes me, because I know that's usually where if I'm comfortable, I kind of just cruise it.
Sure.
You know, when I'm uncomfortable, I'm usually like having to pour in more. So
Yeah.
the hardest part will be finding that next thing that makes me uncomfortable and pushes
Do you have
me.
any idea what that could be?
I want to work with young athletes.
Okay.
I want to work at some capacity. I want to work with young athletes because the only reason I'm here, not even knowing the Lord growing up, is because of like guys that my father, coaches, guys that walked alongside of me the whole way, the shoulders of the people I stood on before me, to be able to play a game that eventually the Lord used to bring me to himself.
Yeah.
And it would be super cool to be able to, whether it's train, walk alongside the kids that don't have dads, or the coaches, walk along some coaches and kind of point them in a way that's like, hey, this is how we should coach, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, young athletes. And
I
I
love
think
that. I mean, you have young kids. We have
Right.
young kids, so it's like we all know it's not
Yeah.
vacation. But that it's like you put in the hard work and now you just get to sit back and enjoy life. And I love your approach. That's like, well, now I'm going to take what I've gained and pour that back into the community. Can you encourage people, which maybe they're your age, maybe they are 65, but they still have years left in them and they've been given this gift of retirement and now they're like, well, what do I do with this now?
Yeah, I'm super thankful. I mean, I'm 33, so I'm new to retirement and all that. But it's like I just want to keep going. Just pushing myself every day, not just looking back to like, I don't know, looking at like the past as like my best days. Football was incredible. I don't want to look back at football and be like, that was the best time of my life.
Sure.
Like I want something else to be the best time of my life and the time I was pouring
Love
into people
that.
more, you know? So yeah, not resting on what I've done, but just being proud of it. And now
Yeah.
just trying to have even better days.
I love
you
it.
know?
Do you feel like there will be any, I know you're only 2 weeks in, but will there be any, I can imagine that you get this kind of Sunday high, I mean, on the professional level that you're playing at. It's almost just like this shot of adrenaline that you kind of expect every week. Will that be weird not having that all the time?
I could fill that back into like the hardest part.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Because it is. I think from the guys I've talked to that have retired and have been through it recently, guys that I've played with, they're like, you can't find it. Like you can't find that like feeling of like running out of the tunnel, the uneasy feeling in your stomach of like, can I do this?
Right.
Am I cut out to do this? And then pushing through, doing it, win or lose, and then being like, oh, like I did it again.
Yeah.
You know, like we walked through it again. So I think finding that will be extremely hard. Not finding that in bad ways. You know, I think some guys try to do like, I don't know, Ironmans and Tough Mudders. Not that that's like in my future. But yeah, I think that's a super hard part that guys try to find. And I think it's something that I'll miss.
So in such a big transition in life, what kinds of questions are you asking God?
I'm asking, what's next? Obviously, I think that's a pretty easy one, but I think just for me to slow down, like I already find myself like, I told Morgan, like, my answer was all great, like, spend time with the kids and be a husband and be a father. And, like, I know myself, and, like, I like to, like, what's next? Like, let me dive in all the way and try to be the best at that. So actually taking the time to be true to my word and true to my wife and true to my kids.
Yeah, I love that.
To slow down. And then, when the time comes, like, what do you want me to do? You've blessed me enough to this point that I can truly just pour myself into something that fulfills me and fills me up, and then also something that you want me to do, and try to do it try to be a professional at that, you know, whatever that looks like.
Well, yeah, I'm sure your like capacity for grit and hard work and like your plate, you're able to put a lot on your plate and handle that. So I can imagine now that it's all taken off, it's like you want to rush and just kind of put it all back on.
Yeah.
But God's probably saying, no, like, let's ease in, like, slow down, rest. Like, these are things that, I don't know, maybe you haven't practiced in a while.
For sure.
Resting. Like, what does rest even look like as a dad of young kids?
I know.
You know?
I just want to stack it's almost like I want to build the rhythms with Morgan and the kids, because I can have those set in stone. That way, when I add something else to the plate, like, that's the foundation. Like, obviously the Lord's my foundation and my walk with him, but have them stacked before I just throw something else on, rather than throwing something else on and then trying to find rhythms with them, you know?
Well, you forgot to say that you're going to be a part-time homeschool teacher.
I am. Yeah.
Which I can't wait to see that. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah. It's been talk about a low that kind of led to something greater. Was I got hurt in training camp this year. I had surgery and I was home for the first 8 weeks of the season. And in that time, we pulled my daughter out of school and started homeschooling her, just with some circumstances that were happening with her. And it has been a learning experience. It's been a journey. It's incredible how our relationship with her, how she's changed. And I'm, like I said, next year we'll do a co-op. Half there, half home. Yeah. We think that's the best next step for us, at least for the next year. Yeah. But it's amazing. Like, just you go from playing football and doing these things, and I'm doing double-digit addition.
Yeah, you are.
And it's great.
Wait till you get to multiplication.
Yeah,
you got to Google some.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we've talked so much about football, but what is your favorite part about being a dad?
Just playing. I feel like I'm a kid again. Like, I've always been a big kid. Like, I still play a game. I played a game for a living, but I think just being a kid, like, playing flag football, like doing cartwheels with my daughter. Like, I think just, I don't know, it brings out a side of you again that just, like, you kind of put away, and you just, I don't know, you do some things at home that most people wouldn't think you do, like talk in a baby voice and, like, roll around the floor, you know, it's like whatever, but it's like, it brings out this joy inside of you to kind of just watch them kind of grow into who they are. And I love that.
It's beautiful. Okay, last question. What do you guys like to do for fun as a family?
We always go out to the beach. We always love to just, like, be outside, hang out.
Oh, yes.
We think that the kids act better, for one, for sure.
Oh, we have a theory about this, that when they're inside our house, it's like other houses fine. Our house with us, they're over it. And the moment you go outside, everything changes. Like, they're just meant to be outside.
No question. And it doesn't have to be extravagant, which is, I don't even say the extravagant, I say extravagant. We'll go to, like, a beach trip and things like that. But, like, those aren't even, it's like going outside and just, like, playing in the dirt.
Truly.
And, like, building a fort. And, like, we hang out with our friends in the neighborhood and just, like, run around. Yeah. And that is truly fun. Like, the most fun we have is just.
Which I just love that, because, again, you know, we are sold in our culture that this fame and fortune, whatever success is, that winning the Super Bowl would be the ultimate high, which it was a high, no doubt. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you find the most enjoyment of just hanging out in the neighborhood.
Like you said, it's such the small things, man. Like, being able to wake up and, like, just have breakfast at the house. I don't know, just cook breakfast and have breakfast at the house. Like, it's just, I feel like when you've been running and going, like, when things just slow down and it's just with the people you love and, like, friends too, like, it's just nothing better for me.
Amen. To slowing down.
Yes, I love it.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. It was
Yeah.
so great to hear from you, and I'm so excited to see all that your retirement holds.
Yeah, I'll let you know when I start working.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Neighbors is produced by Logger Creative and Taylor Minning. Music by Austin and Lindsay Adamak. Artwork by Wesley Parsons. And motion graphics by Robbie Burns.
Living to love life. I'm living to love life. You have loved me. You show me brighter days. New mercies every morning. You never shy away to tell me that you're for me. How could I repay this? Whatever can I do but offer up this life?